Yes, we are doing this again. Hey, welcome to the same story that I have told before, but let me briefly explain why I am doing this. Why am I turning it into two parts? The answer to that is extremely easy. I made this video for the first time and realised that I have 1.5 hours of footage, and I was very proud of myself for editing it down to 1 hour, but I still thought, what are the chances that people look at a YouTuber who's never posted before and the first thing they ever post is rambling on for 1 hour? I don't know how many people would agree to doing that. I don't know how many people would think that that is a really good deal with someone they don't know. I decided that instead of rambling on for an hour, I will try to maybe ramble on for 15 minutes or 20 minutes twice and divide it into part 1 and part 2. Yeah, let's try that. Hi, my name is Dina, in case that you have not seen the video from before and you have no idea who I am, and even after having seen the first video you still don't really know who I am because I'm very new, I still don't really know what I'm doing, and most importantly, I don't know if anyone is ever gonna see that, or if it's gonna rest with like 10 people who are basically my friends and extended family, which, I mean, y'all are great. Good. I will stop rambling now because let's get to the point. I'm gonna tell you a story that happened to me 10 years ago.
Why, God, why? We had a deal, let the others grow old, not me!
Even more than 10 years ago, which I'm old. So I'm dividing the story into part 1 and part 2 of the events that led up to me mistaking a tampon for a penis. We have to rummage a bit through the forests of teenagehood and mistakes and bad friending and all these things because people need to understand why I met the involved people and why I think karma was hunting me down to ensure that I will never be a basic bitch ever again.
Eternity later.
So part 1, I stole my friend's man. Now mind you, because we were really young when that happened, it wasn't as bad as if, you know, I had a friend and she had a boyfriend and they had been together for ages and then I stole that guy. That would have been way more tragic than that. Luckily, what happened there was a bit on a smaller scale, still not okay, and I will emphasize throughout the story that anything that I did, any decisions that I made were not good. Neither in terms of the outcome to the story, but also, again, not really good for my karma, and most importantly, not a very good representation of my character. I was in 7th grade and I was what you would truly call an ugly teenager. I was going through these typical phases where everything was just not right. I was extremely insecure about it because I was extremely aware of it. I was also made aware of it by plenty of bullies and ex-boyfriends because I had acne. I also was just in constant non-control of my hair that would just frizz, and it really felt like it was growing in all directions and really not in a good way. I looked in the mirror and all I saw was like a demented lion, and I felt like that too. It was just inadequate. It just wasn't good. I didn't feel comfortable. I wasn't very happy. I mean, I was okay. I was an okay kid in the sense that I wasn't walking around feeling super unhappy and depressed and sad all the time, but I avoided mirrors for a reason because it was mostly looking in mirrors that would maybe make them drop a slight bit. In my year, there was a girl, and we're just gonna call her Mary in this story, quite for obvious reasons. I'm not gonna name real names in this story because I don't want to get sued. And Mary was everything that I wasn't and wanted to be. She was beautiful, she was popular, she was always nice, she had just this like philanthropic aura, she was She was so popular, people thought she was beautiful, the guys wanted to be with her and the girls wanted to be her and wanted to be her friend, and I have to admit that, especially at the beginning when I witnessed that she existed, I wanted to sort of keep her at an arm's length because, again, I didn't feel particularly great about myself, so the last thing that I needed was hang out with a girl who would make me feel even worse. But it ever so had it that we ended up having sports class together, and it also ever so happened that Mary and I both absolutely sucked at sports. We really bonded over the fact that PE was just suffering. And in that time, of course, I did end up befriending her a little bit. And I learned a bit more about her life, which I had to this point thought was so incredibly perfect just from the things that I heard. And I know that's really naive, and nowadays I know that just because someone's life seems amazing and looks amazing and you think they have everything, they have the looks, the money, the blah blah blah, we all know that that alone is not a recipe for happiness. She was infamous for having this loving boyfriend on top of everything else who just doted on her, even on what back then was sort of social media. We're talking about the early 2000s. Social media was not Facebook, it wasn't Instagram, it wasn't any of that. It was MSN. It was the MSN Messenger, where you could put a descriptive name and you could have a profile picture and all these things. So that is the way they communicated to the world how much they loved each other. And well, if you looked at their profiles, you would think that it was just the greatest and most beautiful love. They were just rumoured to be an amazing, happy couple. All the more reason for me to think, wow, she really does have everything. Everything. Turns out she really didn't. Because the more I talked to her, the more I learned about not just her life and about her as a person, but I also learned a lot about her boyfriend, Nicholas. And what I learned from the stories she told me was that Nicholas was an absolute disaster of a human being, and more, a boyfriend. Because he was moody, irrational. He was extremely hypocritical in the manner in which he got angry at her and about the things that he got angry with her. He would be extremely jealous, but if she ever got jealous because he rubbed in her face that he was hanging out with girls all the time, I saw that. I saw him rubbing in her face that he was hanging out with his ex-girlfriend, who was apparently still in love with him. Said girlfriend also messaged Mary at one point to tell Mary that Mary should never think that she was special, because she, the ex-girlfriend, would always be more special to him, because I don't really know what the argument was, to be honest. And it really upset Mary, of course it did. And whenever Mary tried to talk to Nicholas about that, he would get extremely angry and almost ask her, are you going to dictate who I'm hanging out with? And 5 seconds after that, he would get mad at her for breathing the same air as a guy. So it really wasn't that great. And there were so many instances where she would call me in the evening to tell me that once again, Nicholas was being enragingly, terribly annoying with her and just awful to her. And I would feel so bad for her that I would then try to talk him into like using his brain or just to calm down a bit. So I was the middle woman at one point. It was almost like virtual couples therapy, because none of us were sitting together. We were all online on MSN, and I would talk to him, I would talk to her, I would report from one to the other what they said and what their argument was, and then I would take it back to the others and I would try to find a solution. I would try to make them like see things a bit differently. Mostly him, to be fairly honest, because I know that it sounds biased if the girlfriend, as in the friend who's a girl, talking to the boyfriend when her friend is upset. It would seem that I would be biased and think that for the most part he was wrong, because the girls would just naturally agree that the guy was all wrong even if they weren't, but he was always wrong because he was an irrational little twat. Anywho, just from witnessing that, I truly at one point thought, A, I'm lucky not to be her. B, I'm really lucky to be single, and especially not dating that. I really couldn't explain to myself why he was being like that. Sure, we were teenagers, which means hormones. but it literally felt like he was on his period. Things got even more interesting when I met him in person, because of course I had a very specific image in my head of what this guy looked like and behaved like. What I saw was not in the slightest what I expected. I expected this really tall, ripped, muscular guy, because most of the pictures that he used as his profile picture were literally pictures of his abs, and he was a football player. So in my head, I just imagined him like I had seen football players before, like just these like tall, hunky, super muscular, six-packy guys. But the person that I actually met was just this guy who was maybe half an inch taller than me, and I'm really short. And that's not me shaming small guys, not me shaming short guys. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. All I'm saying is, it really didn't meet my expectations, and it sort of made me giggle, because he was just this little cute giggly boy with the voice that absolutely had not dropped yet, especially because he was so tyrannical. I think I even more thought that he has to be super just tall with a really deep voice, and just like, I don't know. I think I expected an absolute fuckboy and not a boy. Upon meeting him, I couldn't help but think, he's so likable. He was such a charming little fucker. And that was really weird, because I knew the things he was capable of. I knew how moody he could be. I knew how shitty he could behave. And yet there I was, finding him one of the most agreeable people I've ever met. We really clicked after we met when he went back to his hometown, which was hours away. He messaged me and he said that it was extremely nice meeting me, and I wrote back and I said that it was really nice meeting him too. And for some reason, after that we never stopped writing, and then the writing escalated into phone calls, and phone calls escalated into, in that sense, confessions of feelings. Now, it was very much him who started confessing to having any sorts of feelings. I was extremely hesitant about that, because up until the point that he said that he had feelings for me, I was telling myself that as long as nothing happened, as long as nothing was really said or uttered or named, I wasn't doing anything wrong, because nothing wrong in that sense happened. Yes, I did talk to my friend's boyfriend on the phone regularly and for a really long time, but up until that point we hadn't talked about anything naughty. There was nothing sexual in these phone calls. It was just phone calls. Very lengthy, nice phone calls, very intimate in the sense that we did discuss a lot of things that were very personal. I'm very good at just ignoring the facts and just telling myself that, again, as long as it wasn't addressed, it's not true. As long as this person doesn't say that they have feelings for me, how do I know that they have feelings for me? And so I let things escalate. I did, very briefly, attempt to let him down, but that attempt to properly let him down failed, because he got really upset. And what I have to say here is that, do you remember how I said that when listening to Mary, I was really happy that I wasn't A, dating at all, and B, that I definitely wasn't dating a guy like that? Well, even not dating him, but just getting to know him and getting more intimate with him was a bit similar to the experiences that Mary had, because I became first-hand witness of how irrational he could be, how easily angered he was. He would get offended at me not writing in the right interval to him. He would get mad at me if I took a bit longer than usual to respond. And we're not talking about days, we're talking about a few hours of me maybe not responding immediately and then him getting properly mad at me. So when I told him that we couldn't be a couple and that I did have feelings, but that I didn't know what these feelings meant, he was extremely upset with me and got very sulky and moody and probably attempted to never talk to me again. And there I was, feeling uncomfortable about that, feeling uncomfortable to the degree that I made an extremely wrong decision. I sat there and thought, what do I do? Do I betray my friend, or do I tell him that I do like him very much? This shouldn't be a question, because the answer was so simple, so plain. It was right there. You choose your friend. You do not betray your friends. Even more when the guy you like, who is the boyfriend, is someone you haven't known for that long. Because I hadn't. I'd known him for a few weeks, maybe a few months, if you want to be really generous and count the times that him and I were talking without there being any kind of hidden meaning behind the talk. She was my friend, he was not. The choice had always been clearly her, but I chose wrong.
You chose poorly.
I chose to tell him that I had feelings for him. So we met one Saturday afternoon, he met me during the day and then went to Mary's afterwards. So bad. So not okay. We met, we kissed, we talked. It was actually a really nice afternoon because, as I said before, it was true that him and I clicked really well, that him and I got along really well, and even kissing him was quite nice. But I knew that this could never really lead anywhere because I was thinking to myself, what do you think will happen? How do you think this will ever be okay? How do you think will there ever be a solution that is not completely awkward, considering that if I got with him, which would mean that he would have to break up with her, and her and I go to the same school, how would that work out? I mean, I know the most important thing in the equation still is her feelings and her getting hurt by me and him, but also my social life would have been ruined, and it would have all been for a guy whom I'd barely known, was extremely moody, my friend's boyfriend, and who lives hours away. Really not worth it. But I didn't think that through. Luckily, he did. Because after meeting me and then going to her place, he realized that, ooh, this is wrong. He tried to ghost me, which I didn't like at all, because as much as I like to hide from the truth, once I'm in a situation where the truth would definitely lead you forward in whatever direction, in these situations I then very much want to know what's going on. So I did reach out to him a couple of times to just say, could you please just officially say that we're over, just so that I can put this away, put the file away, put it in a drawer and never look at it again. And he confirmed, and he said that I do like you very much, I do think you're someone very special, but I do love Mary, and I think Mary and I need to get reacquainted and work on our relationship. I do love her, so I'm sorry, but I think we should never talk or see each other again. That was it. That was the story of how I met Nick and how Mary got into my life, and it's also the story of the worst thing that I ever did to a friend, I'd say. Yes, I was young, I was insecure, but that doesn't really... I had developed consciousness. I was self-aware, I was aware of what I was doing. I had morals, I had a sense of what morals are, I had a sense of right and wrong, and I knew that what I did was wrong in so many ways. And insecurity was the driving force behind everything, but it doesn't make it okay. I want to emphasize that if you find yourself in situations like this, don't hurt your friend. And sometimes it just doesn't hurt to sit down and really start a dialogue with yourself to establish whether you had taken a wrong turn and whether there is a way to fix it. Because that is something that I didn't do. I didn't listen to the alarm bells in my head. I didn't pay attention to my mum who said that this wasn't okay. I didn't pay attention to anything, and I did get hurt. And I deserved to get hurt because I needed to learn my lesson. So yeah, that is part 1 of the story. Stay tuned for part 2, where things get a lot juicier and a lot funnier, right? I'll see you in part 2. Thank you for watching.